So William is not taking any more crap from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. He's now considering all options, including legal routes, to stop his younger brother, who he views as a treacherous soul these days.
It's February 23, 2026, and the quiet morning mist over London has just been shattered by a statement so sharp, so icy in tone, it sliced right through the calm. The world didn't just pause, it froze in shock. At exactly 9:07 a.m. GMT, Buckingham Palace dropped an announcement that didn't just shake the headlines, it shattered the uneasy calm hovering over the royal family. The message, crisp and formal yet dripping with intent, confirmed that Prince William, acting under the full authority of the Crown and backed by the Privy Council, had officially refused to recognize a private DNA profiling report submitted by Prince Harry. That report was supposed to be the final gesture of peace, the scientific proof that Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor is truly Harry's biological son and therefore deserves his rightful place in the royal household registry. But instead of healing old wounds, this so-called peace offering turned into a royal grenade. The palace's cold rejection didn't just end a conversation, it sparked a full-blown freeze across the monarchy, locking the royal lineage in a chilling standoff that no one saw coming. Not since the royal crises of the 1600s has Britain seen anything like this. The message from Buckingham Palace wasn't just a rejection, it was a legal thunderclap wrapped in royal formality. This wasn't about paperwork or petty disputes, it was a declaration of constitutional power. Prince William, the heir himself, made it clear that no child, not even one claiming royal descent, would be reinstated into the line of succession without official DNA verification conducted under the direct authority of the Crown. In plain terms, William wants a second test, and definitely not one from some private California lab. He wants the investigation handled by Britain's own intelligence and forensic experts. That's right, the future king has turned a family scandal into a national protocol. The royal family isn't just clashing through tabloids anymore. This time, the war is over bloodlines, not headlines. What's at stake couldn't be higher: the legitimacy of two royal children, the reputations of two brothers, and the future of the monarchy's sacred bloodline. Across London, from the private clubs of St. James's to the echoing halls of Westminster, one question keeps whispering through the corridors: he's your son Harry, but is he ours? To understand how things spiraled to this breaking point, we have to rewind to the legal spark that lit the fire. Just last week, Prince Harry's legal team sent a 72-page dossier straight to Clarence House. The document reportedly laid out every argument, every demand, and every plea for the restoration of royal recognition and elite security status for his children. What was meant to settle old scores may have just reopened the deepest wound in the Windsor dynasty. The dossier Harry's team delivered wasn't light reading, it was loaded with proof and paperwork meant to silence every critic once and for all. It included a genetic paternity test from a California lab confirming Harry's paternity, a sworn affidavit from Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, detailing her pregnancy timeline from 2018 to 2019, ultrasound records from a Beverly Hills obstetrician, and even a notarized statement from a staff member at Portland Hospital. Every page screamed legitimacy. The goal was simple yet explosive: to restore Archie and Lilibet as formal members of the royal family after years of exile. Harry wanted the doors of the monarchy opened once more, clearing the way for his children to regain their royal titles, privileges, and protection. Insiders say he's been desperate to return to the UK, especially after his life in America began crumbling under pressure and isolation. But when the file reached Prince William's desk, his reaction was icy, methodical, and merciless. According to palace insiders, he didn't hesitate. He reassembled the Sovereign Succession Security Council, an old advisory unit made up of legal minds, intelligence officials, and royal archivists. Their mission? To investigate lineage integrity whenever royal bloodlines are questioned. Within hours, William's office issued what's now being called a royal freeze on Archie's reintegration attempt, pointing to serious irregularities and contradictions in the submitted evidence. Since then, palace aides have leaked whispers of an explosive internal memo, now nicknamed the Bloodline Files. These are the mysterious red flags that William and his advisors claim have never been properly answered. The leaked Bloodline Files sketch a picture so wild it shakes the core of the monarchy itself. They hint at a possible web of deception so deep it threatens the royal institution's credibility. The first irregularity listed in those files zeroed in on the visual forensics of Meghan's pregnancy, and what the palace experts claim to have uncovered is jaw-dropping. According to sources, the palace's media forensics team combed through dozens of images of Meghan Markle taken in early 2019. Their focus? A set of photos snapped on March 5, 2019 during two public engagements in London. In the morning shots, Meghan's baby bump looked full, round, and low-set, the appearance of late pregnancy. But in pictures taken just hours later that same day, her midsection appeared smaller and higher, with visible wrinkling under her coat, something the analysis team said looked more like synthetic material creasing, not natural skin folds. That strange visual shift sparked whispers of something far more dramatic. A private 3D reconstruction, reportedly commissioned by palace officials, used depth mapping tech to study the images. Their conclusion: no organic pregnancy could possibly change in shape or mass that drastically within just 6 hours. This revelation reignited old suspicions that perhaps a prosthetic device had been used to disguise the true timing or even the reality of the pregnancy itself. The second issue flagged in the files is just as serious: the total absence of medical verification. Unlike the royal births of Prince William and Princess Catherine's children, no signed confirmation exists from the royal household's official surgeons, Sir Marcus Setchell or Dr. Guy Thorpe Beeston, verifying Meghan's labor or delivery. These two physicians have attended the births of future kings, yet were completely absent for Archie's. Adding more mystery, no hospital discharge records were ever filed with the General Register Office or archived by the Crown. In the eyes of the institution, a birth not witnessed and documented by the Crown's own medical officers technically doesn't meet royal protocol. For the monarchy, this missing paperwork isn't just a detail, it's a direct challenge to what counts as a legitimate royal birth. The silence from the medical world about Archie's birth has always felt strange, but now it's being weaponized as proof of a major procedural breach. For years, the unanswered questions were brushed off as gossip, but suddenly those missing records and quiet doctors are being treated like evidence of a cover-up. Then comes the next twist: the birth certificate mystery. Archie's official certificate was amended nearly a month after it was first issued, a move that Prince William has called unprecedented and completely unexplained. The alteration replaced Rachel Meghan Markle with Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, in the field, listing the mother's name. Meghan's camp claimed back then that the palace itself requested the edit, but William's office fired back, pointing out that Catherine's full legal name appears unchanged on all 3 of her children's certificates. That detail might seem small, but for palace investigators, it's a flashing red flag. To them, it looks like someone tampered with an official royal record, and now every detail is under the microscope. But the most shocking revelation buried in the so-called Bloodline Files didn't come from the doctors or the courtiers, it came from the financial sector. A classified audit conducted by MI6 cybercryptologists currently working under the palace's custodian unit uncovered a stunning transaction that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. According to the audit, on May 1, 2019, just 5 days before the palace officially announced Archie's birth, there was a swift wire transfer of $499 made by Arcuwell LLC. The money's destination? A discreet reproductive medical center near Tijuana, Baja California, known among elite circles for its gestational surrogacy coordination and total confidentiality. That discovery didn't just raise eyebrows, it detonated a storm inside Buckingham Palace. The mysterious $499,000 transaction wasn't just a random payment, it came loaded with encrypted notes that changed everything. Hidden inside the data were references to an NDA non-disclosure agreement between the clinic and a third party, a detail that sent alarms ringing inside Buckingham Palace. Intelligence officers flagged it immediately, calling it a possible sign of a secret gestational agreement. If that's true, if Archie was actually born via a surrogate in Mexico while Meghan appeared publicly pregnant in London, it would shake the royal rulebook to its core. Under the ancient born-of-the-body law from 17th century common law, any child not physically born of the royal mother is legally excluded from the line of succession. The implications are explosive. But the controversy didn't end there. The DNA test itself, the supposed smoking gun meant to silence all doubts, has now become part of the mystery. The test was carried out by Horizon Gene Diagnostics, a small private genetic lab in Santa Barbara, California. William's camp immediately questioned the legitimacy of the process, pointing out that the samples were hand-delivered by a non-neutral courier, reportedly Meghan's former chief of staff, instead of through an official tamper-proof chain of custody. Things only got murkier when experts discovered that Horizon Gene Diagnostics isn't accredited by the Royal College of Pathologists in the UK, nor recognized under ISO 17025, the international standard for forensic laboratories handling legal DNA evidence. That lack of accreditation made the entire test appear, in the palace's words, custom-built to produce a result, not uncover the truth. The submission process itself was reportedly overseen by Douglas Hall, an Oregon-based attorney who specializes in parental rights disputes, not royal succession law. To insiders, that detail alone screams that something about this operation was crafted to protect reputations, not confirm reality. Douglas Hall's role in the entire DNA saga is now under fierce investigation after a bombshell leak exposed an internal email from his office dated January 22nd. The message, obtained by the Times of London, carried a chilling subject line that read, "We need optics, not science." That single line sent shockwaves through both legal and royal circles. The body of the email made things even worse. It instructed his team that if the California lab refused to speed up the results, they should find another partner lab willing to certify pre-analysis validity. The message went on to say it didn't have to be bulletproof, just unimpeachable on paper, because in Hall's words, the palace will only see the documents. Those words alone hit like a thunderclap. When confronted, Hall didn't deny the email's authenticity. He simply claimed it was taken out of context. But the damage was already done. To many inside the palace, this looked less like legal strategy and more like a deliberate plan to manipulate perception rather than reveal the truth. And just when it couldn't get more tangled, Kensington Palace released a new timeline that painted an even messier picture. According to banking surveillance records and international courier logs, the DNA sample was flown out of LAX on January 24th, bound for London. But investigators discovered that an identical sample had also been shipped to a second lab in Zurich, Switzerland. That Swiss facility reportedly never received payment, and therefore never ran the analysis. Palace sources believe this points to a pre-planned fallback option, suggesting that the Sussex team might have anticipated rejection from UK authorities and built parallel proof trails to keep the narrative alive no matter what. Even more damning, leaked data from Zurich's internal lab system marked the sample as practice use only, confirming that no official chain of custody was ever established there either. As one senior Home Office official allegedly whispered off the record, "It's starting to look like a game of smoke and mirrors, and the stakes couldn't be higher." This doesn't sound like a straightforward paternity report anymore. It reads like the final act of a Netflix thriller, crafted to twist the truth and sway public opinion. The palace isn't treating it like paperwork. They're treating it like a crisis. In the wake of these jaw-dropping revelations, Prince William took an unprecedented step. He officially activated the Royal Commission for Lineal Ethics and Continuity, RLEE. This commission, established quietly under Royal Charter in 1975, has never been used in public view until now. Normally, it operates deep in the background as a royal safeguard, a kind of emergency mechanism for when the monarchy's very bloodline is called into question. But for the first time in living memory, the RLEC's full 7-member panel has been summoned, and insiders say the mood behind closed doors is tense. The commission's lineup is as heavyweight as it gets: 2 senior lords from the House of Lords Appointments Commission, a retired Privy Council judge, the Royal Archivist General, a constitutional historian from Oxford University, the Archbishop of Canterbury's legal representative, and 1 former intelligence officer whose identity remains top secret. Every one of them carries enormous influence, and now they've been tasked with deciding the fate of Archie and Lilibet's royal legitimacy. Their job isn't just to verify DNA, it's to judge whether the children meet the legal, moral, and ceremonial standards necessary to remain part of the royal line. This investigation is about more than biology. It's about trust, tradition, and the survival of the monarchy itself in an era where digital manipulation can rewrite reality. According to inside sources, the RLEC has already demanded access to every version of Archie and Lilibet's birth certificates, Meghan Markle's travel logs from the year before both births, surveillance data from Frogmore Cottage, and even redacted financial records from Archewell's transfers. If the commission ultimately decides that the children's births don't align with royal succession laws, the outcome won't just be scandalous. It could trigger the biggest constitutional shockwave the royal family has faced in centuries. If the RLEC rules against them, the fallout will be brutal. Archie and Lilibet would be permanently erased from the official royal register, all title claims, even honorary ones, gone for good. They'd be barred from future state visits, jubilee appearances, or ceremonial roles of any kind. But beyond the loss of royal titles lies something even more explosive: the looming question of Princess Diana's estate. According to Diana's updated 1996 will, her fortune was to be divided equally between her 2 sons and eventually passed on to their legitimate descendants. But with Archie and Lilibet's legitimacy now under official review, their right to inherit from the Diana Discretionary Trust, valued at over £22 million, has been thrown into chaos. Multiple insider sources have confirmed that Prince William has already held private consultations with the Trust's board, suggesting that the Sussex children's share be temporarily frozen in an escrow account until the RLEC reaches its final verdict. This move would effectively cut off any immediate financial access, a devastating blow, especially as Harry is rumored to be leaning heavily on the trust to provide for his children following the collapse of the Archewell brand. Behind closed doors, Harry has reportedly called this decision a betrayal, not just of him but of his mother's legacy. He allegedly told a close friend that Diana would never have let royal paranoia outweigh her love for her grandkids. She believed in hearts, not birth certificates. Those words are now echoing across media outlets and palace corridors alike. Still, palace advisors insist this has nothing to do with emotion. They say it's about responsibility and legality. To them, the estate's trustees are simply protecting Diana's legacy by ensuring the funds only go to verified heirs. This isn't sentiment, it's fiduciary duty. One official was quoted as saying, "Until legitimacy is confirmed, the financial freeze remains in place, creating a tight grip around Harry's options and putting immense pressure on him to cooperate fully with the palace's demand for a complete forensic audit." As Prince William tightens his legal grip on the royal narrative, another powerful figure has stepped out from the shadows, King Charles III himself. According to high-level palace insiders, a sealed private memo written by Charles in December 2025, just weeks before his latest health evaluation, has now been unsealed at William's direct request. While the memo's full contents remain classified, palace sources confirm its subject line reads, "Rose Sussex children and the threshold of trust." That phrase alone has sparked a frenzy of speculation. The document, stored under Level 4 security clearance at Marlborough House, is said to have been drafted right after Charles received a confidential briefing from Princess Anne regarding alleged inconsistencies in Archie's birth timeline. Those close to the matter hint that the memo might contain early approval from Charles to deny hereditary recognition to any royal child not born under verified and observable conditions. If true, it would mark one of the toughest royal decrees in modern times. Sources say Charles was torn in two, a grandfather's affection on one side and the duty of a monarch on the other. In the end, he reportedly deferred to William's authority, signaling not only trust in his son's judgment, but also a transfer of royal control in handling sensitive family matters. It's a clear message: the era of leniency is over and discipline now rules the day. But the Sussex camp didn't stay silent for long. On February 12th at 8 a.m., Meghan Markle's legal team struck back with a preemptive counter-motion in the High Court of Justice, accusing Prince William and the Privy Council of staging what they called a custodial coup disguised as a lineage inquiry. In the fiery filing, Meghan's lawyers argue that Archie and Lilibet are dual citizens of both the UK and the US, and therefore protected under international family law, a bold legal counterstrike that could drag this royal war into global courtrooms. The Crown may be invoking ancient protocol, but Meghan's side is fighting with modern law and international pressure, and the battle is just beginning. In their legal counterstrike, Meghan's lawyers argue that the Royal Household Registry is not a statutory civil authority and therefore holds no lawful power to decide questions of identity or legitimacy. They insist that removing or suspending Archie and Lilibet's names from the registry amounts to institutional erasure, a direct violation of their rights as royal descendants and dual citizens. To drive their point home, the legal filing included personal photographs from Archie's birthday celebration in Montecito, showing a normal, loving family moment, and a sworn affidavit from Tyler Perry, reaffirming that Meghan carried, delivered, and raised both children as any mother would, despite relentless public cruelty. The emotional evidence was powerful, but the palace's response was chillingly silent. That silence, insiders say, is deliberate. The palace isn't ignoring the claims, they're calculating their every move. Behind those golden gates, the royal divide has become impossible to hide. Princess Anne is said to fully back William's firm stance, pushing for the creation of an independent royal medical tribunal to settle the matter once and for all. Meanwhile, Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, is reportedly uneasy about the harsh tone of the investigation, but believes the monarchy can't afford to appear weak or unprepared again. And Queen Camilla, though silent in public, was allegedly overheard behind closed doors declaring that the crown must stand taller than its scandal. As for Prince Harry, sources describe him as furious and heartbroken, feeling utterly betrayed, not just by his brother, but by the very institution he once served and defended. One palace insider revealed that a recent phone call between the brothers was short, sharp, and ice cold. With the legal war reaching its peak and family ties fraying beyond repair, what began as a dispute over paperwork has spiraled into a constitutional and emotional crisis, shaking the royal family to its core. The monarchy now stands on the edge, caught between bloodline and brotherhood, law and loyalty. What began as a family feud has now exploded into a war for the monarchy's moral soul. Behind Buckingham Palace's towering gates and deep within the digital stronghold of the Arlaec, a decision is quietly being finalized. The question at stake is no longer about DNA or paternity. It's far bigger now. Can the House of Windsor survive a lie this massive or a truth this damaging? As of February 13, 2026, the final Arlaec report, compiled after 6 grueling days of reviewing birth records, international bank transfers, and confidential witness statements, is being examined by just 3 people: Prince William, Princess Anne, and the Lord High Chancellor of Great Britain. Their verdict will shape not just the fate of 2 children, but the credibility of the crown itself. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle, who has remained notably quiet throughout most of the investigation, is reportedly preparing to break her silence in dramatic fashion. According to sources close to her legal team, Meghan has recorded a powerful on-camera statement that's set to drop within hours of the commission's verdict. The upcoming interview, filmed just 2 nights ago at her Montecito estate, promises to be raw, emotional, and deeply personal. Insiders say she opens up about her pregnancies, her experiences with childbirth, and the relentless scrutiny she faced as a woman and a mother under royal pressure. Her message, they say, strikes right at the institution's core, accusing it of misogyny, classism, and institutional gatekeeping. In one especially searing moment from the recording, Meghan reportedly says, "I carried my children, I gave birth to them, and now they're being erased." This isn't about lineage, it's about power, fear, and control. Those words alone are expected to echo across headlines worldwide. The production is being handled by an independent US-based media outlet, deliberately bypassing major networks that have grown cautious about covering the Sussexes' controversies. Whatever this next broadcast reveals, one thing is certain: the battle for truth, legacy, and royal survival is about to explode in front of the entire world. As the world braces for Meghan's emotional broadcast, Prince William is quietly preparing his own response, one far more restrained, yet every bit as historic. Behind closed doors, his team has finalized a draft titled "On the Matter of Lineage and Constitutional Continuity," a speech that insiders say could redefine the monarchy's modern identity. It's reportedly set to be released within 24 hours of the Arlex verdict, marking a moment of royal reckoning not seen in decades. Approved in principle by King Charles, the statement is said to detail the Arlequins' conclusions, the official registry status of Archie and Lilibet, and the Crown's stance on future claims to titles and succession from descendants not born under verified royal conditions. This isn't just a press statement, it's a constitutional declaration. Those close to William describe the tone as calm, unwavering, and deeply personal. He doesn't lash out, he stands firm. At one key moment, he reportedly declares, "This decision was not made with malice, it was made with duty. I would rather carry the burden of public backlash than risk the erosion of royal truth." That line alone, aides say, left his inner circle silent. They believe William has made peace with the fallout, even if it means losing his brother forever. But just as the palace prepares for impact, a new twist has the entire British press in a frenzy. A leaked Heathrow travel manifest, allegedly sourced from airport customs, has surfaced, listing a private jet scheduled to land in London on the morning of February 14, 2026. The document identifies one adult male traveling under the name Henry Mountbatten Windsor and 2 minor dependents. The flight reportedly departed from Van Nuys Airport, VNY, in California, operated by a private charter service often used by senior royals. Notably, there is no mention of Meghan Markle on the manifest. No security detail, no media coordination, no press access at all. It's pure silence around the trip. Palace officials have refused to confirm or deny the authenticity of the manifest, but insiders are buzzing with speculation that Prince Harry may be returning to the UK alone, with Archie and Lilibet by his side. If that's true, it's an extraordinary gesture, one that could either heal the deepest rift in royal history or ignite the final spark in this unfolding family war. It may be Prince Harry's final gamble, a desperate move to prove that his children belong not just by DNA, but by presence and legacy. Insiders believe he's bringing Archie and Lilibet back to the United Kingdom to stand before the king himself, presenting them in person as living proof of their rightful place in the royal line. It's a bold act, an emotional plea to defy cold paperwork with flesh, blood, and truth. Yet not everyone is convinced this is what it seems. Some palace watchers whisper that it could be a calculated distraction, a decoy move meant to draw the spotlight away from a brewing legal maneuver happening behind the scenes. As one senior royal insider put it, this family plays chess, not checkers, and nothing is real until those jet wheels hit the tarmac outside Buckingham Palace. Outside the palace gates, the world is on edge. Journalists have already pitched tents and cameras, bracing for a historic announcement that could either redeem or ruin the House of Windsor. Across Europe, the headlines are relentless. The children in limbo, royal verdict imminent, the prince and the DNA files. The narrative is splitting public opinion in half. To some, Meghan Markle is seen as a modern mother crushed by medieval rules, a woman punished by an ancient institution terrified of change. To others, Prince William is the necessary protector of royal integrity, a man forced to make brutal decisions in defense of the crown's credibility. And caught in the middle stands Prince Harry, the tragic figure of this royal storm, a man torn apart by love, loyalty, and legacy, fighting a battle he may never win against a brother who holds every royal card. If the Arlequins ultimately rules in favor of Archie and Lilibet, it would be a seismic victory. The children would be formally reinstated in the royal household registry, granted the right to use their royal titles, added back into the official order of succession, and finally eligible to receive their inheritance from the Diana Trust. But if not, the history books may record this as the moment the royal bloodline itself was rewritten before the world's eyes. If the Arlequins rules in favor of Prince Harry, it will mark a bittersweet victory, a win drenched in public scrutiny and royal fallout. Every truth revealed, Every accusation revisited will live forever in headlines. Yet if the ruling goes the other way, the consequences will be devastating. Archie and Lilibet would be formally and permanently stripped of royal status. No titles, no recognition, no ceremonial rights. Any future attempt to use royal titles in public or media contexts could even trigger legal repercussions. For Harry, the risks run even deeper. Palace officials hint he could face disciplinary action for alleged misrepresentation, effectively branding him a royal outcast. And if that happens, the already fractured bond between the brothers won't just be strained, it will shatter completely, becoming a permanent divide carved into royal history. Adding one final layer of tension, a little-known clause buried in the Arlish Charter grants either the king or, in his absence, the Prince of Wales, the authority to veto or uphold the Commission's ruling. But according to those closest to the situation, Prince William has no intention of intervening. He plans to accept the verdict exactly as delivered and make it binding for the crown. William reportedly believes that the monarchy's integrity depends on enforcing its laws without exception, no matter who it hurts. To him, royal truth must outweigh royal blood. This isn't just a family matter, it's about the future of the crown, one aide was quoted saying. And so the world watches as this saga becomes more than scandal. It transforms into a global case study on power, identity, legacy, and truth. Two brothers, two children, one bloodline, and one question that will define the monarchy for generations. Does birth alone make you royal, or must the crown recognize you first? As dawn breaks on February 14, 2026, London doesn't wake to the warmth of Valentine's Day. It wakes under the cold steel light of history in motion. The city stands still, holding its breath, waiting for the moment the Bloodline Files are closed, and a new chapter of the monarchy is written forever. The rumors that had rippled across newsrooms for days finally solidified into cold, undeniable fact. At 6:42 a.m., a Gulfstream G650, tail number N722SW, broke through the London sky and touched down at RAF Northolt, a military airfield normally reserved only for heads of state and senior royals. The choice of landing site said it all. This wasn't a family homecoming. It was being treated as a matter of national security. The aircraft taxied across the runway and rolled toward a remote hangar, far from the flashing cameras and crowded chaos at Heathrow, where reporters had camped out all night. But waiting on the tarmac wasn't a royal welcoming party. It was a convoy of 3 black Range Rovers, surrounded by armed members of the Diplomatic Protection Service. Standing at the base of the steps were not the familiar figures of King Charles or Prince William, but 2 of the monarchy's most trusted gatekeepers, Sir Clive Alderton, the King's powerful private secretary, and Dr. Michael Dixon, head of the Royal Medical Household. Their presence made one thing crystal clear. This wasn't a reunion, it was a verification mission. When the cabin door finally opened, the already tense silence deepened. Prince Harry emerged first, his posture weary, his face drawn and unshaven. Dressed in a wrinkled gray suit that seemed to hang off his frame, he looked every bit a man carrying the weight of a crumbling dynasty on his shoulders. Then came the moment that stopped everyone cold. Turning back toward the cabin, Harry reached out a hand, and from the shadows stepped 2 small figures. For the first time in years, Archie and Lilibet appeared before the world. Not as blurry photos on Instagram or half-glimpsed silhouettes in a documentary, but as real children in the flesh. They looked wide-eyed and disoriented, gripping their father's hands tightly as they descended the stairs. The scene was eerily quiet. No photographers, no shouting crowd, just the distant hum of jet engines and the cold morning wind cutting through the still air. In that moment, the long-hidden family drama had crossed into history, and the crown was about to confront its ghosts face to face. Blinking against the pale chill of the English morning, there was no nanny. There was no Meghan. Prince Harry had come alone, his 2 children by his side on what can only be described as a desperate, defiant gamble to prove the legitimacy of his bloodline. This wasn't a reunion. It was a test, a reckoning, and possibly his last chance to silence the whispers that had haunted him for years. The black convoy didn't head toward Windsor or Buckingham Palace as many expected. Instead, under tight police escort, it raced through the dawn streets toward King Edward VII Hospital in central London. There, an entire top floor had been cleared and locked down overnight. The hospital had become the stage for what was now known as the Independent Medical Tribunal, the extraordinary process ordered by the Arl Ek itself. The rules were strict. Independent DNA samples would be collected by Crown-appointed geneticists, observed by a High Court judge, and analyzed by the forensic laboratory of the Ministry of Defense MAD. No private labs, no outside interference, just state-level science under the watchful eyes of the monarchy's highest authorities. This was exactly the kind of verification Prince William had demanded from day one, and now at last, Harry had agreed, accepting terms that many insiders called humiliating but necessary. Friends close to him say he believed truth was his only weapon, that the science would vindicate his children and bury the Bloodline Files forever. But as the tests began, another storm broke loose, this time from across the Atlantic. While Harry and the children were being sequestered in sterile hospital rooms, Meghan Markle's long-awaited video went live, its timing devastatingly precise. At exactly 9 a.m. London time, a video titled The Erasure appeared on a newly created, unbranded YouTube channel. The thumbnail showed Meghan alone, sitting in a stark white room, dressed in deep black, staring straight into the camera. There were no bright lights, no professional filters, no royal polish, just raw emotion and conviction. The world was about to hear her side, and she wasn't holding anything back. In the video, Meghan didn't speak as a duchess, she spoke as a mother. There were no titles, no royal formality, just raw fury wrapped in poise. Her voice quivered, trembling with a mix of heartbreak and defiance as she declared, "They asked for my blood." Then, with a pause that cut through the screen, she added, "They asked for the blood of my children to prove they are human." Her tone hardened, every word dripping with emotion. "This isn't about protocol," she said. "This is about punishment. They are trying to erase us because we refuse to be silent." The simplicity of her delivery made it even more devastating. Meghan wasn't giving a royal statement, she was delivering a plea from a mother under siege. She went on to describe what she called the intrusive, demeaning demands made by the palace, turning the DNA order into something darker, something that felt like a violation of human rights. She accused Prince William of leading a genetic witch hunt, an obsession rooted in what she called the monarchy's archaic fixation with blood purity. Then, leaning closer into the camera, her eyes unblinking, she said, "They want to tell you that my children aren't real, but the only thing that isn't real is their humanity." Within 1 hour, The Erasure had racked up over 10 million views. Social media exploded. Hashtags like "Let Them Be Royal" and "Stop the Erasure" trended worldwide. The video was a scorched earth counterattack, a calculated strike designed to turn the court of public opinion against what she portrayed as the monarchy's cruel machinery. And it worked, at least online. The public conversation shifted instantly, split between outrage and disbelief. But inside the heavily guarded offices of the Royal Commission for Lineal Ethics and Continuity, RLEC, the emotional storm raging outside didn't matter. The commissioners weren't watching YouTube. They were examining bank statements and evidence trails. The $499,900 wire transfer to the Mexican reproductive clinic had now been independently corroborated by a second intelligence source. Even worse, a leaked internal email from Arcuel's former business manager surfaced, expressing deep concern about how the payments to Forza Biomed were structured, suggesting something wasn't as clean as it seemed. While Meghan's words ignited hearts across the globe, inside those royal chambers, the decision was already being carved in stone, and emotion would not change what the evidence revealed. The leaked email was the final blow, the piece of evidence that turned whispers into undeniable truth. It explicitly referenced third-party gestational services and the urgent need to sanitize the ledger before any public audits. Within minutes, investigators were calling it the smoking gun. It didn't just raise questions, it confirmed suspicions that the birth itself might not have met royal legal standards. The implication was chilling. The email suggested that while Prince Harry may indeed be the biological father, a fact the DNA test was likely to prove, the method of birth broke the ancient born-of-the-body rule. And under the centuries-old laws governing British royal succession, that detail changed everything. By legal definition, a child born via surrogacy, even when genetically linked to royal parents, is ineligible to inherit the throne or hold hereditary titles, unless Parliament passes a special act to allow it, and as of now, no such act exists. That meant if Archie and Lilibet had been born through surrogacy, they could still be beloved members of the family, and heirs to Harry's private wealth, but they could never legally be Prince and Princess of the United Kingdom. The law would see them not as royal heirs but as commoners adopted into the fold. It was a brutal technicality, but in royal law, technicalities are everything. And now, that technicality had become an unbreakable wall, one that Harry was about to crash into head first. At precisely 4:16 p.m., the medical tribunal concluded its work. The forensic samples were sealed, the reports logged, and the findings transferred under military security to the Arlex encrypted database. Harry and the children were then escorted out of King Edward VII Hospital and driven to a secure safehouse on the Windsor estate. It wasn't Frogmore Cottage. That property had been emptied months ago and remained off-limits, but a smaller guest lodge typically used by royal protection officers during high-security operations. There, Harry waited, isolated, disconnected, and stripped of contact. Even his phone was confiscated under the official security protocol meant to prevent leaks while the commission finalized its ruling. Alone in that quiet safe house, with his children asleep in the next room, Harry could do nothing but wait, his fate and his children's titles now hanging in the balance of royal law and centuries of tradition. He was a prince trapped in a gilded cage, waiting for judgment on his own flesh and blood. Inside the quiet safe house, Prince Harry tried to keep the hours from swallowing him whole. He played with Archie and Lilibet, forcing smiles, telling stories, pretending the world wasn't collapsing beyond those walls. But deep down, he knew the decision that could define his family's future was being made by men who now saw him not as a son, not as a brother, but as a risk to the crown. By 6:18 p.m., the verdict had arrived. The RLIC had finalized its investigation and delivered its findings to both Prince William and King Charles. The report, bound in red leather and embossed with the royal seal, bore a title as cold as it was final: Findings on the lineal status of the Sussex issue. What lay inside was nothing short of devastating. The DNA analysis, expedited by the Ministry of Defense's Forensic Laboratory, confirmed that Prince Harry was indeed the biological father of both children. That should have been his victory. But the Commission's next conclusion shattered it. They found insufficient evidence to verify that the births had complied with the official royal birth protocols required under the Bill of Rights 1689 and the letters patent of 1917. The report laid it out in chilling detail: the missing signatures from royal physicians, the altered birth certificates, and the irrefutable financial trail showing payments linked to gestational services in Mexico. Together, those elements formed the foundation for the ruling that the births, though genuine in nature, did not meet the legal definition of being born of the body of a royal consort. The verdict wasn't saying that Archie and Lilibet weren't real or that Harry wasn't their father. It declared something even more painful: that under the monarchy's constitutional law, they were not born in a manner recognized by the crown. It was a technical ruling, but with nuclear consequences. By the strict interpretation of royal succession law, Archie and Lilibet were now considered ineligible for royal status. In the eyes of the monarchy, they were Harry's children, but not heirs to the king. Inside the palace, sources say the decision hit like a thunderclap. And yet, Prince William, the driving force behind the inquiry, reportedly remained unflinching. He urged immediate publication of the findings, insisting that the monarchy's survival depended on transparency, not sentiment. Outside, the world had no idea that within minutes, the crown was about to drop its most shocking ruling in modern royal history. Prince William stood firm. He argued that truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to preserve the integrity of the royal succession. In his eyes, the monarchy could not afford sentiment or secrecy. He insisted that the titles be stripped immediately and that the official line of succession be amended to reflect the ruling. There was no hesitation in his conviction. He saw this as an act of duty, not cruelty. But King Charles was not so cold. Holding the red leather report in his hands, the document that effectively delegitimized his own grandchildren, he reportedly paused for a long time, silent and pale. Those close to him say he searched desperately for a middle ground, torn between duty as a sovereign and anguish as a grandfather. He feared that making the ruling public would be seen as vengeance, not justice. He feared too the racial optics, the very narrative Meghan had already ignited in her viral video. To punish now in the public eye could look like a strike not against law, but against her. And that, Charles knew, could ignite an international firestorm. So the king did what monarchs have done for centuries when faced with impossible choices: he compromised. And his compromise was devastatingly precise. That evening, a handwritten note from King Charles was delivered to Harry at the Windsor safe house. Courtiers later described it as a masterclass in royal brutality, written in careful, almost apologetic language. The note explained that the palace would not publicly confirm the surrogacy allegations, nor would they release the Bloodline Files to the press. Instead, the crown would issue a letters patent of abeyance, a rare royal decree that would suspend the titles of prince and princess for Archie and Lilibet, pending further constitutional review. The same document would also state that the children were to be removed from the active line of succession until such time as they could meet the necessary constitutional criteria. Criteria, the palace quietly acknowledged, that could never truly be met. It was, in every sense, a soft expulsion, a polite erasure dressed in royal protocol. The children would not be branded illegitimate publicly, but their royal existence would be paused indefinitely, effectively ending their claim without ever announcing it outright. In closing, the note informed Harry that he was free to keep his children in the UK, but they would be recognized only as private citizens. There would be no HRH titles, no royal security, and no access to the Diana Trust funds, which remain reserved solely for verified heirs to the throne. It was mercy on paper, but exile in practice. If he chose to take his children back to America, the suspension would become permanent. The crown made it clear this was the final choice: either raise Archie and Lilibet as private citizens in Britain, protected under the silent cover of royal discretion, or return them to America as public figures, stripped of titles, stripped of status, stripped of heritage. It was checkmate. According to sources inside the Windsor Lodge, Harry's reaction was one of complete collapse. He had crossed oceans to prove his children's legitimacy, to show that their bloodline was real, only to be told that reality didn't matter because the paperwork didn't align with royal law. In that instant, it hit him. He hadn't been defeated by hatred, but by procedure. William hadn't challenged the DNA out of malice. He'd done it to enforce the law. This wasn't personal revenge, it was constitutional precision. Harry, in all his anguish, had played an emotional hand in a legal war. He had brought a knife to a nuclear fight, and the monarchy had responded with surgical force. That night, on February 14th, Valentine's Day in name only, Harry sat alone in the small living room of the guest lodge. His children were asleep in the next room, the air heavy with the kind of silence that only comes after a battle lost. In one hand, he held his father's letter, the quiet execution of his royal future. In the other, his wedding ring, now cold and weightless. He knew that Meghan would never accept the private citizen compromise. She needed the titles for the brand, the royal link for the business, the very prestige she had fought to redefine. But if Harry accepted the king's terms, he'd lose her. If he refused, he'd lose his children forever. Either choice ended in heartbreak. The Bloodline Files had proven one brutal truth. Truth isn't always a shield. Sometimes it's the sword that cuts you down. And as Harry stared out at the shadow of Windsor Castle glowing against the cold February sky, he understood the depth of that cut. The sword had fallen, and it had severed the last thread connecting him to the life he was born into. The verdict was final. His children were his by blood, but not theirs by crown. The House of Windsor had closed ranks, protecting the monarchy by sacrificing the son. And in the echo of that realization, Harry finally understood. Some lines once crossed can never be uncrossed. The story of the Bloodline Files wasn't just a royal scandal. It was the end of an era, a chapter sealed not by victory or forgiveness, but by silence. If you've followed this unbelievable saga to its end, like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Do you believe justice was served, or was history rewritten to protect the crown? The world deserves your voice, so let's talk about it.